Oh, he's got the blue lights on. He's got his beanie on. We have to learn another Tony Rice solo? Are you kidding me? I'm just kidding. Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Today, we're going to be taking a look at 9-Pound Hammer off of the album Manzanita. Before we take a deep dive and analyze this solo, again, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and give this video a like. It would mean so much to me. And if you want to be my best friend, you would subscribe to my Patreon. Yeah, that's a good way to straight to the heart. Straight to the heart. I'm just kidding. But if you do subscribe to my Patreon, I do have backing tracks at different tempos, different camera angles at different tempos. I also have the sheet music and tab up there. But as you know from watching the previous videos, and if you haven't watched them, they'll be right here, that I do provide the sheet music and tab for free because I love you guys. All you have to do is go to my Patreon, and it should be public access. You should be able to download the sheet music, no problem. All right, we're doing the deep dive. Let's do it. So we have the solo 9-Pound Hammer from Tony Rice's Manzanita. We're going to take a look at this. We're just going to break it down. We're going to try to make sense of it. So starting right off the bat, let's take a look at measure 1. We have a pickup. Tony uses a lot of pickups in his solos, and this one's no exception. So right off the bat, we have a pickup on beat 4. So if we're counting in, it would be something like this. 1, 2, 3. So right on that 4, we're going to be sliding from the 5th fret to the 7th. It's a quick note. It's not this. These notes aren't sharing the same value. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that emphasis is on the 1, but we're coming in on the 4, which is what makes Tony's solos so interesting. It's his timing, especially on the start of solos. So once we hit the 4 beat with this note, this is held out to the next measure for another, looks like a half note into an 8th note. So these are all held out together. And what I like to do is we're using down-up alternating pick strokes. So this is going to tell me what's an upstroke, what's a downstroke. So if we're coming in on the 4, that's going to be a downstroke on that slide. Now Tony's known for breaking this rule, but for Mandolin and for the sake of this solo as of right now, we're just not going to worry about what Tony Rice does with his picking because it's very interesting. We're just going to worry about down-up picking. So what I like to do to make this make sense to me is when I do that hold, I'll kind of count with my hand. So 1 quarter note equals 1 downstroke. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So a downstroke is 1/8 note, an upstroke is another 8th note. So if I'm just doing downstrokes, they're just quarter notes. So for measure 1, if we're holding this out, it's going to be a down, 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 and then on that up, we're going to hit the 3. So for example, it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, upstroke. The reason I use my ring finger here to slide up is because we're going to be in this shape that Tony uses quite a bit. So if we can make this shape work with the ring finger, then we can move it all over the fretboard. So for example, we could do something like this. We could do the same thing up the neck here. It gives us a chance to hit the flat 3 and the 3 up the neck to give us some more bluesy note selection. So moving on, the rest of this is continuous 8th notes. So 2, 3. Until we get to the end of measure 2, we have a quarter note that's happening off of a pull-off. So another really important thing with trying to mimic Tony Rice's playing a little bit is to get these pull-offs, these slides, and these hammer-ons nailed down correctly. It's going to give us sort of the sound that Tony was going after on our mandolin. So note selection wise here, we have a G, which is just a flat 7 of A. We also hit a D sharp or an E flat, however you want to think about it, which is the sharp 4 or the flat 5 of A, which is another bluesy tone. It's usually used chromatically to get to places. Something like that. But Tony actually skips the D, which is usually used as the chromatic piece in this, and he just goes straight to a C and a C sharp, which is just a flat 3, another bluesy note, to a major third. So and again, hitting a G, which is another flat 7, and then he's doing a hammer off of F to E. Now F is not in an A major scale, but what he's setting up is for us to go to the 4 chord, which is the D. We have a quick pull off from the F to the E, all happening on a downstroke. And this leads us directly into an upstroke on the next note. We have a slide from that F to the F sharp, pull off, so you're actually not picking that open A at the end of measure 3. So, slowly. Yeah, and this is kind of a typical bluegrass thing to do, this kind of lick. It's actually a G run, but in the key of D for us mandolin players. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. The next little bit, which is measure 4, we have a C to a B and holding out that B, but it's a quick C, and it happens on an upstroke. And we hold that out for a quarter, but it's actually 2 eighth notes connected, so it's an upstroke, don't hit anything on the downstroke, and then we come back in on an upstroke with the open A. So, and then a pull off at the very end between our middle finger and our index finger, like that. That last measure sounds like this. So it's really, really imperative to get those hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides, and it's really imperative to keep your hand moving so you have an idea of where these notes come in. We talked earlier about this shape, the reason why I slid into this with my ring finger. This same shape is actually going to happen, but lower down on the strings. So if I'm usually playing this shape with this phrase, I would usually do it like this. You might notice on the sheet music that I have us sliding not up here on the C to the C sharp, but I have us doing it down here. Down here, it allows me to stay on the same string to hit 3 notes in a row, and then gives me time when I hit that open A to shift my hand back to play the rest of this phrase. So, let's watch my fingers closely for this. Or you could play it like this if you want. Either way works, whatever's more comfortable for you. Really quick, measure 5, we have a slide from the 7 to the 9. The slide happens on an upstroke, so it's upstroke, we don't pick that 9. It's a slide into 9 without any picking, and then we continue with an up, 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 down, up to finish that phrase. So, down, up, no pick, up, down, up, and then into our slide in measure 6. All right, so if you look at measure 7, we have a similar pull-off than we had earlier where we had these quick pull-offs that happen, except this is happening going from a 5th fret down to the 4th fret on the G string. So what this is doing, we're landing on a B, which is actually the 5th of E. So Tony does a really good job of leading us into the next chord with chord tones. Chord tones are basically the 1, 3, 5, and flat 7 of chords. This happens to be the 5. But if we take a look at its longer phrase, we might have something that we've heard before. Doesn't that end sound a lot like a G run? Probably because it is. Tony does a really good job of hitting E as our chord tone to let us know that, hey, we've gone to the 5 chord, but let's also end this to get back to the A. When a 5 goes back to a 1, we usually want to give ourselves an ending lick or a tag lick that will get us back to 1 to give us a sense of arrival. So basically what Tony's doing here is he's giving us a G run to get back to that 1 chord. He's not thinking, oh, we're going to E, I have to play something with only the E chord tones and then get back to A. What he's saying is we're going to start this solo on a chord tone of E, but I'm going to quickly go back to A. And in bluegrass, you don't always have to hit the chord tones to make a solo sound good. There's nothing really tricky with this A run. You just have to make sure the first little quick pull off is a downstroke. Slide, remember, upstroke on the slide, no picking on the downstroke. Then it's up, down, hammer off, and then another down. So altogether it looks like this. So moving right along, we were halfway through this solo. Again, just like the first measure, or getting into the first measure, we have another pickup note leading into bar 9. It happens again on 4, which is cool, so it's kind of a theme from earlier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So it happens on the 4, and then it holds another quarter note. So it's going to be 2 downstrokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, rest. And then starting on the 3, we're going to start on a downstroke, but what we have is we have a very cool slide down. Very sassy move by Tony, if you ask me. We have a slide down from the 11th fret to the 10th fret, really quickly. And I like to slide down on my middle finger here. It makes the most sense because what we're looking at here is really just a pentatonic shape. An A pentatonic. Now there's a few more things that are happening later on in this phrase that aren't necessarily pentatonics, but for the most part, we can think of this as a minor pentatonic. We'll look at measures 9 and 10. I'll play them slowly just so you get an idea of what it sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. At the very end of measure 10, we have to use our index finger for 3 notes in a row, which is really bizarre, but I think it works really well. It kind of breaks up the phrasing. So when we get to the end of measure 10, we're going to land with our index finger on the 7th fret of the A string, and I'm kind of shortening the value of this note. It's not a full holding out the note so you can hear it through the whole 8th note. It's just a short. So it's down, up, down, and this lands on the downbeat of measure 11. So if we just take it from measure 10, it looks like this. Again, one more time, looks like this. The reason I'm doing this slide here is it allows me to hit this next part over this D chord, which is this. So from measures 9 all the way to measure 11, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whenever you see an open string, that's a sign that you can shift your hand position, which is what's happening from measure 11 to 12. At the very end of measure 11, we have, so we're all the way up here. We have to figure out a way to get back down here. But luckily, we have an open A that's going to lead us to shifting our hand down here so we can play the next bit. So far, we've done a lot of linear stuff. This is a little bit more string crossing stuff for the mandolin, so it sounds really cool. So let's take a look at it. Measures 12, 13, and 14. Basically, you're using this E as a pivot note along with this A. These are kind of, these are happening consistently, and all you're doing is adding a note in there, and these notes happen to be a C, a D, and an E flat. Really bluesy stuff. So it sounds like this. 3, 4. Ah, so cool. And if you needed help with the right hand here, we're still alternating strokes. So on a downstroke, it's down. Upstroke is up. The tricky thing is changing between strings here. We have a lot of string changing. We have some inside string changing. We also have some outside string changing. So we just have to kind of get used to this. Play it slowly at first. So play it. My big thing here is that we have good tone and timing, not necessarily, oh, I can play this at speed. We want to have good tone and timing first. And then we can slowly build up speed. So at the end here, basically we have a tag to end the song, which is our typical G run. We love it. But here, we basically have just an A minor pentatonic with a B in there. Type of phrase. It's just a bluesy phrase to get us to that tag. So just be mindful of the pull-offs here on measures 14 and you'll be solid. So really slowly, it looks like this. Again, one more time. So that's just a little breakdown of the solo for you. I do have backing tracks and I do have multiple camera angles on my Patreon at different speeds, just so you can kind of practice along with this and get it up to speed. So just a reminder that the sheet music and tab are free. They are on my Patreon, so you will have to go there, but you don't have to pay anything to download it. It should be public access. The link will be in the YouTube description. All right, till the next Tony Rice solo, I will see you later.